Okay, this is the beginning of Andrea's mother's new shed. Her old shed was over 20 years old and she's acquired too much junk and it started spilling out all over the place. And so I don't want this property to end up look like a junkyard, so Andrea said she either had to get rid of stuff or she had to get a bigger shed. So she opted for the bigger shed. So her old shed is a 7x7. This one's an 8x10. This one is a Suncast Tremont shed that we got at Lowe's. And so we're going to put it on a plywood frame with a block foundation. And luckily our dirt here is pretty much flat, so should not have too much of an issue. And so I just got finished with the old shed. So that's where the old shed was. Where the flags are is about where the new shed is going. What we need to be mindful of is instead of trying to back up the Motel 7, we want to pull it through. So I want to make sure that we can still be able to pull the Motel 7 through without any problems in the future. So here's the old shed right here. This is going to a friend of ours. A friend of ours bought property for a school that she wants to do, or that she is doing. And so she became our go-to for any time we really have stuff that we don't need. We ask her, and most of the time she says yes. So we said, we have this old 20-year-old shed. Do you want it? And she said yes. So I got it on the back of my truck. So hopefully in the next couple of days, we can go over to her place and install it. And then the shed is not our problem anymore. So weather, of course, is not wanting to cooperate. It has not rained in like 2 weeks. But of course today it's nasty and is sprinkled a little bit. So we will see how the new shed's going to be. And we will, when we start installing it, then I'll do more to the video. Okay, today is shed day. So Andre and I just finished cutting all of the boards for the frame and the piece of plywood that we had to cut for the frame. We still have the other 2 full sheets over here. And so what we're going to do now is, originally I was wanting the shed to be about where the flags are, with the far right corner being where the corner of the shed was. But I think there's going to be a problem with doing that. Is that in the back over there, the gray trailer, that's what we call the Motel 7. And one of the things we wanted to do is, instead of backing the Motel 7 in, we wanted to run it forward, and which means we would have to come around to the back and then just pull the truck and the trailer through and set it where it is right now. So we did that this spring, no problem. But I'm afraid, if you see by where the ground is, where the shed was, which was right here, to where the new shed's going to be, I think that's going to cut off too much room, and we're not going to be able to put the shed there. So what Andre and I decided, even though I really don't want to, is right now I've been able to use my riding lawnmower and go in between where the shed was and where our tent is, which was great, because at the end of the day I'm lazy and I hate doing yard work. So the more I can do on the riding lawnmower, the better. So unfortunately, it looks like we're going to have to, I still want to keep it in line with these 2, because as you can see, the back of those 2 are pretty much in line. I still want to keep it in line with those, but I want to push it back. So the 10-foot piece, which is right there, is going to pretty much be where my foot is right now. So the whole thing's going to get shoved back 3 feet. And then the only thing that's going to happen is, I know I'm moving the camera around, I'm sorry, is that instead of the end of the shed being over there, it's going to be about where the end of my foot is, which is about 1 foot past that. So let me go back a little bit. So when we come through with the Motel 7 in the future, it's virtually the same as what it is right now. So Andrea claims, and I'm going to hold her to it because we have video evidence of it now. She said that next year she would trim in between these two buildings, since I'm not going to be able to do it. She said, and I quote her, "You're going to be doing the riding lawn mowing and I'm going to be doing the trim stuff." So it's on video now. So next year when she complains about it, then I can go back to this video. I'm joking, sort of. So anyway, I'm going to start setting the CMU piers now. Then we're going to build the frame on top of the CMU piers. And then we'll actually start cutting open the boxes and getting into the shed itself. I don't know if you could hear the chickens, but there's been massive chicken drama all morning. I don't know if you can hear that on the video or not, but it's been non-stop all morning since we've been out here. Samantha and the chicks are pretty much disrupting their egg production life inside the coop, and it's just creating a whole bunch of drama. So yay to chicken drama. Okay, we got the framing and foundation in. Thought the ground was level, but it was not. The far side was about 1.5 inches higher than the low side. So instead of spending a half a forever trying to level the ground, Andre came up with the idea of putting shims in here. So what you see here with the 2x4 shims on this side, that's actually the cut pieces of the framing. And then in the center, we had CMU piers going through, and so we put 3/4 inch shim or framing here that we had as scrap, and then the left side over here was the high side, so it doesn't have any shims. So it is level to between the lines on the level, so I will call that good enough. We have 16 foundation pieces on here. These are just CMU block. Now we're in South Carolina. It does not freeze here. We do not have a frost line, so we can do this and not have a problem. If you live in an area that does have a frost line, you probably won't be able to do it. You probably have to have a minimum of a gravel bed, if not more than that. But we can get away with this. We have sandy soil, which is really good in compaction, and so we can do this. So we have 6 pieces of CMU in the center, covering all the 2x4s. So instead of a span of 8 feet, we have a span of 4 feet. So if you were going like framing a house, you normally don't frame a house with the 2x4 for multiple reasons, but this would exceed the live load requirements for house framing as far as the span is concerned. You can use 2x6s. 2x6s, you definitely would not need the interior piers, but at the time of this recording, the cost of a 2x6 was more than double the cost of a 2x4. And so doing 2x4s at 12 inches on center was significantly cheaper and will be better than if we did 2x6s. And so we have our exterior plywood over there. We actually stuck that exterior plywood down to make sure that the foundation was level, as in level as in square level. And so we took it up so we could level the foundation and we could do the video. So now next up is we get to take our 3 pieces of plywood and we get to stick it on here and actually create the base. Then after that, then we actually get to start installing the thing. So yeah, the good thing is it's been windy and it's around 70 degrees and it's partially sunny. Sun's actually out right now, but it hasn't been. It was actually sprinkling a little bit earlier. So today's actually a good day. You know, it's not like it was last week where it's like 85, 90 degrees, where by the time you walk from the house over there to get over here, you're already sweating. So, all right, enough rambling. We'll get the base on and then we will continue. Okay, the foundation is done. I put about 200 screws on the plywood, plus about 50 screws on the framing. And so now it's done. We went in to get some lunch and came back out. Now, of course, instead of being cloudy and nice like it was, now there's not a cloud in the sky. But there is a cold front coming through today, so maybe it can come through and cool things down a little bit. It's not that hot, but it will be once we start working. Walking on top of this right now. It doesn't seem to be wobbling or anything at all, so that's good. So, yeah. So all it took was 11 pieces of 8-foot 2x4, 2 pieces of 10-foot 2x4, and 3 pieces of 3/4 inch plywood, all of it exterior pressure treated, and then 16 pieces of 8x16 CMU block, and we got our foundation. Now we can actually start unboxing and installing this thing. I am not going to be doing a how to install video. I figured there's better ones out there. So if we see anything or we come across anything, we'll do it. Otherwise, it'll probably be when we're done. Okay, the pre-assembly is done. What the directions have is the pre-assembly is that if you look on the gable roof pieces, you see that middle piece right there. We had to screw those in. A little mosquito mesh on the vents. These stupid skylights. I say stupid skylights because those things were a nightmare to install. And then the other thing was the door. The doors are over here. So these little window things, we had to put those in. If you hear gunfire in the background, we're in the country. And it's deer season right now. I don't know what other type of season it is. So I don't know if they're hunting and shooting or just shooting for shooting's sake. But that's been going on most of the day. So we'll ignore it. So as long as they're not shooting at us or around us, I really don't care. So anyway, the pre-assembly took 3 hours to do. It took an incredible amount of time. So we got done with the pre-assembly. We went inside, took a break for a few minutes, and we also had to install these truss things too. And then we installed the base here, and then I forgot to do a pre-assembly video, so that's what I'm doing right now. So anyway, hopefully the actual assembly of this thing doesn't take nearly as long as the pre-assembly, but we shall find out. Okay, it is the next day now. By the time we actually got done with this thing, it was dark. It was like 8 o'clock at night. So this thing is never getting moved again. This was a chore. Somewhere I read, supposedly it came from the manufacturer, that it would take 3 hours to assemble this thing. Like I said on a previous segment, the pre-assembly, which is like putting these in and building those trusses and stuff, that took 3 hours. And it took us 4 hours to actually assemble this thing. We had to have flashlights when we actually got done with it. But as you can see, it looks pretty roomy in here. The top of this is over 8 feet because I can stretch and get 8 feet tall, and it's actually over that. The sides, I think, are about 5.5 feet tall. So that is good. Where the fender washers are, I put screws down and screwed into the plywood. That's not hurricane rated, but the shed is not hurricane rated, so I'm not really worried about it. Then, as far as the doors are concerned, you have these little latch things here. So you can close it and then latch the one side, and then the other side. Let me get this real quick. You have your nice little handle thing, and then there's a piece on the other side, and it does that. So if you do that, it's closed. Then you can put a lock on it. Then you do that, it's open. So yeah, that's about it. Andrea's mom said that she was going to paint this in a couple, 2 or 3 months, once the pressure treated wood dries out enough. But there's the base. Here's the back of it. From the floor to the top is 8.5 feet. So it is pretty tall. I'm 6'3", and I still had to get a step stool in order to get the top pieces. Then there's the side there. There was also an option that you could get, which you could add another panel. So like a panel ended here, or wait a second, a panel ended here and a panel ended here, and you could extend it out back, and it was like another 3 or 4 feet. So pretty much where that roof piece is in the middle, it would be another piece that size, and you can just keep adding to it. We didn't want to tell her that because we didn't want to give her an excuse to get more junk. But that's it. So that's done. Now it's her responsibility to fill this thing up. So our tent that we have, which is right there, has survived 4 tropical systems since we've lived here. 2 of which had decent amount of wind, had at least tropical storm force winds. No hurricane winds up here. The coast got to deal with all that fun stuff. So I'm assuming that tent is going to be less secure than this is. And since the tent has survived, this thing should survive. So that's about it. I am so glad this is done, because now I don't get to ever deal with it again.